Mail. When I saw this front page, I was a bit lost for words. So people are working from home, but actually not from home, from the beach.
We are outraged because
Apparently.
we three are here doing this live first thing in the morning. But in today's edition of It's Woke Gone Mad, lots of councils have been asked to disclose details of where their staff exactly are at. And lots of councils just refused or failed to respond. Maybe they were in Ibiza, because lots of details have shown that...
How much work is going on in Ibiza?
Over 730 staff over the last year logged in for various places, including one person who is either absolutely taking the mick or a total genius who worked from Ibiza for the last 4 years. And other people from New Zealand, Australia, Barbados. This is the local council, and critics have pointed out that if you're working from basically Barbados, you're not like in the same time zone as all the other council friends who are sorting out the bins for people, sorting out local care. So it's prompted lots of outrage / humour / I think jealousy, a little bit of jealousy.
Do you know what? I'm fine with people working from the beach, as long as it's a good British beach. So actually, if you want to be working at this time of year, you should be on the beach at Lowestoft or somewhere like that. And in which case, yes, I'm completely fine, because that shows fortitude and character. Yeah. This is the future of working, though, isn't it, ultimately? Yeah, this is
completely.
The wonder, apart from us. Yeah, to be fair, I don't think people want to see us on the beach at this moment when we're talking about everything that's going on. But, yeah, increasingly work is becoming atomised. If you can prove that your work is efficient and good, I don't see a problem with it. I think most people would complain, though, that the average public services in the UK are not doing particularly well at the moment. So I think that's where the criticisms would lie.
Although I like the idea of us all doing this from a really cold pebble beach, like no sand, just hard rocks under us. Yeah, Margate.
Please don't give them any ideas. They might do that just for a laugh.
I do not know where this could lead. Let's move on to the Times, please. The rising toll of young adults who say they're too unwell to work.
Yeah, I mean, at least there are people working when they're at the beach. But increasingly, this is, I mean, it's a problem that's affecting young people, old people, all sorts. But in particular, this story on the front of the Times is talking about how there are now more young people who are out of work or out of education with long-term mental illness than are, for instance, looking after children. I'm always very sceptical when I hear that mental illness, because it's such a broad sort of panacea of things. Are we talking about depression? Are we talking about paranoid schizophrenia? And often, unfortunately in this country, we don't have a very good roadmap for getting people out of poor mental health. Very often people are just prescribed antidepressants or SSRIs or whatever it might be, and they're just told sort of on your way. And that never actually sort of addresses the crux of the problem. Obviously, there is a productivity issue here. And if you're not setting up people from a young age to work, where they're in good habits and where they're already putting money aside, that will lead to even more problems down the line. But there's another thing here which just caught my eye, which is somebody from the Resolution Foundation saying that it's good news that there are fewer people looking after family who are out of work. And I just thought that's a really weird way of sort of looking at this, which is, OK, there are lots of people out of work because they're mentally unwell, but on the plus side, people don't have to look after their relatives. And you think, at a moment when we have such major issues around care in this country, where there's such strain on the private sector and on the state sector because people aren't looking after their elderly relatives, because they have to go back to work, and also at a time when we aren't physically having enough children in this country. So it's saying it's a good thing that people aren't looking after their elderly relatives and they're not taking time off work to look after children. I think that speaks to a real sickness in society. And when you've got that kind of situation where you're going, people have to go back to work as quickly as they can't have children, they can't look after their grandparents, and they aren't necessarily earning enough money as it is anyway in terms of young people to get on the housing ladder, are we actually surprised that there are that many people who have to take time off work because they're burnt out or they're depressed? I don't think that's a surprise at all.
OK. Take us through, Badisha, this next story, that actually kids, young children, are relying too much on gadgets to complete coursework, homework. And actually, handwriting is taking quite a battering, isn't it? That actually ineligible on exam papers.
Yeah, this story is way less serious than you think it is, because it's evidenced by the gigantic headlines that we have here. It's about primary schools not letting kids have enough time to practice good old-fashioned handwriting, so that by the time they get to secondary school, it's too late because the teachers don't know quite what to do with them. You can't have extra classes for the few who can't write legibly. And now exam boards by GCSE time are complaining that they can't mark scripts because kids are so used to just sort of quickly tapping something out. I know we are all guilty of this. And
Oh,
I've
my
noticed
goodness. Doctors, us journalists, our handwriting is
well, I'm sure
terrible.
the camera can't pick this up, but I still write a diary every day, and I think it's at least not made it legible, but at least saved the practice of holding
Using
a
a
pen
pen.
and handwriting and liking paper and enjoying pens and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm trying to think about when I started using computers at school, and it was GCSE age, and it was completely encouraged, except that at the point of taking an exam, you're not using computers. One thing that's very funny in this article is that it may mean the use of word processors in the future, or even scribes. So
Wow.
we can go back to the medieval period, and posh children can dictate to their scribe what is in their mind.
I did hear somebody refer to the use of emojis as going back to ancient Egypt and the hieroglyph,
Yes,
basically
exactly
communicating
like
via
that. It was
pictorially.
exactly like
we are literally
Well,
going backwards. That's fun.
Anyway.
when Cleopatra died, it was just sad face emojis.
Benedict, we're going to gear change now.
Yeah.
We're going to mark this front page of The Guardian and many of the papers, but South Korea's worst ever air disaster in the last 5 years,
Yeah,
at least.
it's one of those strange things, of course, where air disasters don't happen very often. Air accidents don't happen very often, but when they do, obviously you
Yeah.
know about it because sadly the scale is often very large. It's also, I think, notable, it should be picked up on anyway, that this is another Boeing aircraft that has had a misfortune. We don't know actually at this moment in time whether or not it's a mechanical failing or what the issue was necessarily, but this is a company that is going through the ringer at the moment because standards when it comes to its aircraft are not good enough, and there have been a number of incidents, accidents, near misses as a result of engineering failures. And of course we all know about what's been going on with their attempt to get astronauts back down from the International Space Station. But obviously simply on a human level, a really tragic event, and also rounds off a really bad year for South Korea, which has really had a very turbulent time, certainly in the last few months.
Yeah, this is the case. The black boxes will take weeks to reveal any secrets that might be locked there.
The scale of the loss of life and the sheer amount of footage of seeing family and friends who are so worried receiving the news is just so hard to take. And there is a huge question around this because everyone passed away but for two passengers. And so there are huge questions to answer. But the most important thing is just to acknowledge this tragedy and to wait and see.
Yeah, South Korea in mourning, of course. We're going to be speaking to an air aviation expert in the next hour, so it'd be interesting to get his take on that. We'll just end briefly on kind of moving on from Christmas. I think it's too early to Easter eggs, and this is in the Mail. Too early, do you think?
Apparently it's not too early, because if you go to Morrison's and Co-op and Asda, you may well find, and we have documentary evidence of this, a few Easter eggs and Easter bunnies creeping in. People have been snapping bright purple Easter-themed chocolate goods, even though Christmas Day was barely a few days ago. Someone even said they saw Easter eggs on Christmas Eve, even though Jesus hasn't even been born yet.
Yeah,
Christmas Eve.
It's not cool with me, Benedict.
It's
Briefly.
ridiculously early. But then again, we get all of this mixed up. Christmas starts in October, doesn't it? So why not start Easter in December? Who knows when Halloween might begin? It might already have begun. I don't know. But it's a bit of a horror story, isn't it?
We'll leave it there for now. Guys, thank you so much. We'll be back after a very short break with the day's headlines.
There's always more to the news than a